2 o'clock in the afternoon, most exciting program there is, which is college presidents. So, and of course, they're the ones that get to decide how fast we go into artificial intelligence. And we've actually picked a good panel. Brock, you're the most newest president.
Yeah, so I've been there a little over 4 years. Came in 2020.
Well, that's good. And he's in Andalusia at Lurleen B. Wallace Community College. And you'll be giving some more details on really what's happening on your campus. And Todd Shackett, you're here, Southern Union.
Right down the road.
Good. And you've been here a while. You're the veteran.
Well, my 7th year. Yeah.
That's good. And Jeff?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I've been at Central Alabama Community College for 4.5 years. So
yeah. So that's a good group. I'm Jim Purcell, Executive Director for the Commission on Higher Ed. We sort of coordinate the campuses and give the guidance, do budgets, and I think I'm supposed to be over them, but they don't know it. And they never think that they do. So it's sort of like faculty. Y'all don't think you have anybody to be supervising you either. So we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and how the world is working now, what we're doing, kind of those things. And I want to start with the first question. Start with Todd here. What are the most promising uses of artificial intelligence in enhancing the educational experience in and out of the classroom on your campus?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing we're finding is you can do more, I call it customized learning. A lot of our students, first generation, particularly in the technical fields, I find maybe didn't even like high school. And the key to getting their attention is finding something that interests them. And so what we're doing is looking at ways we can particularly take a math class, for example, Math 101, and gear it towards a machining student or gear it towards a nursing student. So the questions that they're trying to teach the principals are based upon are more relevant to the career they're choosing. So something like that, I think, has a great potential for our students.
Brock?
Yeah, Todd, I think you're right. When you talk about personalized learning and customized learning, I think that's going to have the biggest impact as we move forward in the AI world. And our teachers having the ability to have the resources and the knowledge with AI to really customize the learning for that student. Just in the past year, we are at LBW, we are at the baby step phase of AI. Our faculty and staff, we had that initial shock of, oh no, everybody's going to be cheating. And so it's a lot of encouragement. It's a lot of, hey, we can do this. Hey, get in there, learn, play with it. And we're starting to make that turn. We're starting to look at course design, look at the way we assess. And I think that's another big thing that we can do is just completely evaluate the way that we are assessing students and allowing them to think critically by using AI. And I think that's important as we move forward.
Jeff?
So just to back up, I think the three of us and other colleagues of ours have adopted it, and it's here. And so I think back of Microsoft Office, their 1997 push out, it was going to have a browser on it. And everybody was freaking out in higher ed. What are we going to do with the browser? Well, AI is here. So adopt it, start learning it, use it, make mistakes. That's okay. But don't make the same mistakes twice. And understand the ethical side of it as well. So we've embraced that approach. Back in February 22, we signed a deal with Intel to start teaching AI at our Purcell campus. The funny thing is we couldn't find an instructor. So our instructor now is head of cyber for Maxwell Air Force Base, and he does it at night. So we have a night class for that. But I think, if you look at those things that we're doing there, in the classroom, it's personal learning, it's AI-powered tutoring. There's some great tutoring processes. The mix that we have at our college is about 50% of our students go on to get their 4-year degree and 50% go in to educate or to workforce, and that's in nursing, manufacturing, whatever. And we're seeing a lot of things. Once we started doing the AI training in Purcell, we had a call from a manufacturing company that said, hey, can we start sending our maintenance people from other plants across the U.S. to do training there? Because they've already incorporated into their closed loop systems of their manufacturing process. And, you know, Todd was heavily into manufacturing globally. And so I know he understands that better than anybody. But so it's here, we've got to adopt it, we've got to use it both in the classroom and then out of the classroom. And last but not least, but Dr. Ali, you know, we have a partnership with him, and Brock will tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But we had one of our professional developments where I brought the entire staff in for a half a day to do training with him. And I gave them permission to go out and use it. So, and I think we got to do that in higher ed. We need to adopt it.
Okay, well, let's talk about, you know, some specifics, you know, specifically about the role of faculty, which, you know, they're the bright minds on campus. Of course, they can also be cantankerous at times about change or supervision. Nothing personal against anyone, just those that I knew. So Brock, sort of talk about, particularly in terms of faculty, you know, changing teaching assessments and maybe curriculum design.
Yeah, so I've become self-aware as president that I have a lot of energy. I come in with all these ideas, and some of them are good, some of them are horrible, and some of them are in between. And I become self-aware that I cannot push AI on my teachers. If I did that, I'd get eye rolls. I'd get, you know, here we go again with his all these ideas of what we could do. So my job as president, I've realized, is to ease them into it, give them the resources, and allow them to embrace it, take ownership in their class. You know, I want them to be the experts inside the classroom when it comes to curriculum design and how they design their coursework. And do I want AI? Absolutely. I think if AI is not a part of their curriculum at this point and in the future, we're going to be left behind, and it's going to be doing a disservice to our students. So as president in my role, I just put it out there. I encourage them. Here's the resources. And I'll give you a story about my marketing. We use AI for marketing a lot. 3 years ago, I was going to my marketing director, and we're a marketing team of one. And I was going to her, and I was like, I need to hire you a team. I need to hire you a team because we need to do more marketing. Well, AI has now allowed us to diversify her training, get her trained, upskilled, and now she is able to take on more. And she has now become more valuable to the college because of AI. So to answer your question, it's not about pushing, it's about helping them embrace, helping them see what AI could possibly do in the future, and not just making our lives easier today.
Yeah. Todd, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the key to adopting any technology is seeing the value in it and seeing what it can do for me. And so a lot of us have been using ChatGPT. It's probably the most well-known of the platforms. I use it. But I was doing a little bit of homework in preparation for this discussion, and so I talked to some of my faculty, and I got a little demo on something called Magic School. Anybody heard of this? Okay, you have. So Magic School, this is my machining instructor now. And in his education process, we've got obviously the machining centers, which are hands-on, but there's a lecture part. And a lot of his lectures are these pre-recorded 5-10 minute videos of some principle of machining. Well, he downloaded this video into Magic School, and it created a quiz based on that video almost instantaneously with 10 questions. And the student will take that quiz, and if they get it wrong, kind of like your drivers, like bring you back to reteach it to you, and it gives you a score, and it'll even show you where in the video the answer was. And he did that instantaneously. You can do rubrics with this software. You can do syllabus. You can do lesson plans. It's pretty incredible, and it's geared towards folks like us. So, and that was just, recently I found out about this. And I think if you show more of our faculty this, they're going to embrace it because it's going to save them hours a day, hours.
Jeff, I knew you prior to your existence here as an academic, you were more of an economic development person in Louisiana. Can you compare really how AI is being used in the technical training programs versus the transfer students?
So I can talk about it at our college. I think our academic side is really adopting it very quickly in all different disciplines, nursing, history, English, et cetera. I think that tool that Todd just mentioned, President Shackett mentioned, I think that's something I'm going to take back to our machining groups. And so I think they're a little leery of technology in that aspect, but I think once they see it, they'll adopt it very, very quickly because, you know, as we all had to go to teaching online quickly, our career technical side, they were a little bit slower to building their platforms online and whatnot, but I think this is going to help them to enhance their programs that they have for the opportunity.
And this is just a general question. Just this idea of the cheating component, how big of an issue is that in this discussion about using artificial intelligence?
Well, for us, that was one of our discussions when we first rolled it out, and they knew that I gave them permission to go forward and do it. You know, some people are already doing it, that's fine. But I think they need to know from the leadership, all of us, that we want you to go out there, but we also want you to be careful with the ethics of it too. And what I'm getting feedback from them, like every quarter, I'll send out a little email to all the employees and they'll send me how they're using it and how they're learning from it, et cetera, et cetera. And the cheating aspect of it, I thought it was going to be huge, but it's not. I think they feel comfortable with the way that they can teach students in a classroom. They can give them assignments and they can use, ChatGPT or whatever. But in the class, what they can do is they can challenge that or they can critique what they did and that. So they're learning how to use it as a tool to measure them, but also keep it ethical.
I'm going to go back to the technical question, if you don't mind. Going back to that as well as the customized and personalized training or learning. Just take math, for example. There's a lot of math in welding, and our welding department works with our math department really closely because there's certain fractions that are not used in welding and there's certain fractions that are used in welding. Well, sometimes we'll have welding students in a math class with students that are transferred. So asking the teacher to develop 2 tests or 3 different tests with 3 different math is a lot on them. However, using AI, now the math teacher can say, I just want 20 math problems with fractions that a welder may use. Boom, it's out there. And that is another way that we are using it to help our technical staff and technical students. And then on the question on cheating, I'm careful about how I say this to faculty, but all of us probably cheated on a test in our lives. Cheating goes back forever, and it's going to be here forever. I think, and I give this example of sports and coaching. If I have a team or if I have a passing quarterback and I'm trying to run every time, that's on me as a coach. I've got to change the way I'm coaching. Same thing as a teacher. I've got to change the way I'm assessing. I have to change the way I'm teaching to help our students problem solve, help them critically think in order to get the product out. And sometimes I challenge them to work backwards to get to where we even began with the problem. So for instance, I say, go to AI, put in a prompt, get the essay, give the essay to the students, tell the students, tell me the prompt I used to get this essay. And, will that work 100% of the times? No, but it gets the mindset there for the teacher to change the way we're looking at how we're getting the product at the end.
Yeah, I think similarly on the cheating side, I would say use AI as a tool, not a crutch. I'm an engineer by training, and back in my day, you had to do mechanical drawings by hand, and then we learned CAD, and it was, oh my goodness. You still had to understand the principles of design, but it made it much more efficient and more effective. I think it's the same thing is as long as you're teaching the principles of whatever subject it is, to use this as an assist is fine. And getting back to the process side of how we can use, again, as an engineer, I remember doing multivariate analysis of processes, which would take weeks sometimes because you're doing it all by hand. And then they brought in software to help you do the calculations, simultaneous equations. That saved me days. Well, now with AI, I think as long as the person sets up the right information in the tool, I mean, they can do these things instantaneously. And like Jeff was saying on the manufacturing side, you can close that loop in your process, whether it be in molding or machining or whatever. And these machines can almost run themselves, but the person programming it needs to know what they're talking about to make it do that. So we're going to try to use this to make them more efficient, not make them go back to the Stone Age just because that's the way we learned.
Well, Todd, while you're there, since you are an engineering process guy, let's sort of talk about just student services. How do you think advising is going to change mental health support and administrative tasks?
Yeah. So we have I think all colleges have an advisor. And what I noticed, a lot of advising has been course selection, course scheduling. And they spend a lot of time, okay, that class is available then. I don't want to have to worry about that. There's software out there that does that now. DegreeWorks does that. We're looking at Ad Astra as classroom scheduling. We've got Banner for the student information. I think AI can take that and assist us to make that a seamless process so they can focus on what they're there for, which is to learn and not to try to figure out your schedule and set it all up. With all that data, I'm hoping we see trends. It can analyze the student data and get us trends on why are certain students failing based on this pathway? Or there's something we're missing. Can we prep them better? Can we reset them somehow? So that's what I'm looking for, to give them a better student experience so they come out ready and relevant to hit the workforce with what they paid for. And I think that data in a tool like AI to help us analyze that and help them correct their course is what I'd like to see.
To discuss mental health, that has been the one thing that has been surprising to me, to see the amount of students that are requesting mental health counseling at our school. And I will say this, that I know this is AI conference, but do I think AI is the end all be all and the future for mental health counseling? I don't know. I think there's some pros and cons to it. Some of the pros out there is that it helps the therapist with data points. So if the therapist can leverage the data to make better decisions for the person and better strategies for the person, then yes, that's a pro. Some negatives, though, are students are choosing to talk to AI bots, and you're losing the humanistic part of that. So there's some skepticism from the therapy side of things, but I think that industry has to evolve, just like education is evolving. But I think that's yet to be seen, how it's going to affect mental health counseling in the future. But I definitely think there is a place for it.
Jeff, how does that make you feel?
Thank you, Jim. So I think it's for the student service side, and then I'll talk about operations side, but I think we can use it for a career opportunity as well. So, students, a lot of times they kind of get lost in translation. They don't know what careers are out there. And so we could do some kind of, I know the panel before us was assessment, but maybe we can create an assessment that ties them into programs that we offer. And then also, once they come to us, I think, and I was talking to one of the panelists before, because we're open enrollment. So we take a cohort that has all different types of learning that they bring to the table. Some have learning challenges, et cetera, et cetera. We don't go after the 33 ACT, right? So how can we assess them up front, maybe adapt that class that we do during that semester and to get the same outcome for all of them, making sure, and then checkpoints during the way. So I think that tying that into some type of automated tutoring, career advising, et cetera, is really good too. And one of my IT instructors, I talked to him before today, obviously, and then he's saying that that's going to help out with him teaching people about networking and, the efficiencies like Todd talked about. We're trying to get better at using tools to tell us, capacity for our operations. Like I've got 10 classrooms. Am I using 10 classrooms from 7:30 in the morning till 10 at night on Saturday? And so we're getting there, but I think this tool will enhance that for a lot of things. And then also instructor loads, et cetera. But then if you think about from what we're teaching other kids about going into manufacturing, about ERP systems, ERP systems, it'll start doing a closed loop where process is done, it automatically update, reorders that product, those raw materials, where it's automatically comes in its sequences too. And so we've got to start teaching our students that go into the manufacturing side, and you can be applicable for healthcare as well. So I think it's just going to explore. And I'm with Brock as well. I mean, I know just a tad, but if every day we've got to continue to learn what's going on, because I'm never going to be an expert in AI, but if I don't adopt it and allow it to occur on my campus, then we're going to be stale, right? We're going to be held back, and we're not going to teach our students what we need to be doing.
Well, the Auburn Creed is sort of like, if you're an Auburn person, you believe in this, and therefore I'm an Auburn person. And it's a philosophy. And that supposedly that they've had that experience that gives them to have that belief. How will you make sure that, employers now, they're looking for artificial intelligence experiences among your students, and, as a Auburn or as a graduate being a product, how do you assure that your students has had a very useful artificial intelligence experience at your campus, and you're not just sending out people who will not be able to meet that particular check on the box for their job? And we'll start with Todd.
Okay, so we're still in the baby stages, like Dr. Kelley said, but what I'm finding is there are certain people, they're early adopters. I find the older I get, the less of an early adopter I am, but I am intrigued by this technology. So I go to my computer science people, for example. They seem interested in new gee-whizzy kind of things. But then within the divisions, I find there's certain people that sort of are intrigued by this as well. So I go to them first, and like I mentioned, this software, this platform rather of Magic School, once we understand that it's out there, I think there's gonna be a clamoring to use it. Having said that, we got to get the students to understand their part, but the more we get comfortable with the technology, the more we can impart that upon our students in some way, whether it be a formal class, AI as part of our CI, computer information systems, or just as a way we do business in our teaching it in everyday classroom settings.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's no surprise that AI is here. It's not going away. And the talent level of the students coming out, the employers and what they're looking for, the talent level, the bar has been raised. If you walk through industry to net in a manufacturing industry, you see a lot of robots, you see a lot of automation. Gone are the days of someone taking something and putting it on the shelf or putting it on the machine. They have robots to do that. So now what we're seeing, people who come out of there have to be able to use artificial intelligence, know the automation, know the how to problem solve, know the back end of the robot, know the back end of all the tech. So the talent bar is raised, but for us to be able to get there, it starts with our instructors, our faculty. They have to understand what AI is. Therefore, they have to be able to teach our students how to ethically use AI and create guidelines within their classroom so that it can be used effectively. And if it's not starting with the instructor, then we can't expect to put out a good product to our employers. So I think Jeff mentioned this earlier, we partnered with Auburn University, and the entire ACCS did, and our faculty and staff went through or is going through the program. And I had a teacher who finished it, and she came to me and she said, this was the best thing ever because I did not understand what artificial intelligence is. Now that I've gone through this course, now that I understand it more, I'm better prepared to be a better teacher. So artificial intelligence is making our teachers better, therefore making our students better, therefore it's going to make our employers better, and then at the end, make our communities better.
So I think that, I think my question was really kind of tied into employers' expectations. And I think a lot of our, some companies have come to us and asked us if we could do teaching for that, and we can. But I would say 95% of the companies don't know that they're using AI, but they're actually using AI, because we can walk through their shop floor and we can identify 15 different things within an hour that they're using AI on. And we have a software program like CACC where we look at and we can scrape job descriptions, and that helps us look at curriculum that we need to increase. And I don't see a huge upswing in job postings that require AI for a lot of the programs that we supply to, like Todd said, machining and welding, electronics, mechatronics, et cetera. But I think that day is coming. So what we have to do is prepare ourselves. We have to educate the workforce sometimes about the technologies that they have within their engineering opportunities or their vendors that put their high-tech equipment there. And we have to be ready, because we want to make sure that more and more industries come to Alabama and that we support their workforce in a major way better than our competitors. And so I think that day is really coming quicker, but it's not here yet. So it's kind of a learning tool with our industry advisory meetings to talk about that. So we can mention that to our companies, and then they start recognizing the needs that they have.
Yeah, Jeff mentioned the advisory meetings, so I'd say we're all similar in that regard. Our programs have industrial advisors that can give us trends that are happening in the industry, so we can get ahead of it and stay current with what they're expecting from our students.
At this point, let me ask just really a question about the community college system. Recently did I thought was just brilliant, clever thing where they actually contracted with the center here to do the training of faculty on how to teach using artificial intelligence. And that was for all, basically they provided a blank check for all the community colleges to send their faculty. How interested were the faculty in that process? Sort of tell me how that was perceived at your campus, and how they, how many of them has sort of participated in the base program. And then there's like a certificate that if you actually use it in your next course, you can get a little extra star on the side of your certificate or something. But tell me about how that was received and what your experience is.
So I will say this, that our teachers are still working through it. We did not put a deadline or a timeline on it. I wanted it to happen organically, and that's how it has happened. One teacher, your go-getters that wanted to implement it, they got out there. Well, teachers taught. They said, well, this is how I'm using it. This is how what I've gained from it. Then you get another teacher. And organically, it has gone through our college, and it has not been a top-down approach. It has been, here are the resources, and go and get it. And I think, it's my opinion, it's the best way to do it. And that's how you get true buy-in from your instructors, when it organically happens.
Todd, you're the closest campus. Were your people pretty active, or?
I think it's similar to what Brock described. I put it out there, and to be honest, I didn't track who went. But I believe it's going to be somewhat iterative. Word of mouth is the best salesperson versus the president mandating that you must do. Because they'll do it, but it won't really, it won't be owned in the same way. But I think as the benefits and the time savings are more well-known, you're going to see a pretty big interest in doing this.
Yeah, we've kind of got the same approach. And like I said earlier, I'll shoot an email out once a quarter to all employees, and faculty included, obviously. And then I get their feedback, and and when I saw Dr. Ali earlier today, we were talking about one history professor we have that just has gone crazy with it. And he teaches music and history and a lot of things. But so we have about 10 that have really excelled rapidly because they're just excited about it. And I think Brock mentioned something earlier that's very, very important. It's really not what we do at the college, it's what the instructors do. That's how you build a phenomenal program that changes the lives of those students. We have to enable the culture to create that environment. So I don't want to push it down their throat. I want to offer it. But I think what I need to do now is try to get these roundtables where they can start sharing it. And then a little peer pressure sometimes is exciting too, and so, they can share what they learned from it because it's all new. Every day it's new. And, we get the emails that there's 10,000 new different apps you can use with AI. And so I think they just need to go through and listen to one of their peers say, hey, I tried this and this is the results I got, and it really worked effectively. So we just need to do more of that at my college.
I'm just going to ask one more question, and then we'll let you guys do your thing. There's still this ethical consideration about how institutions should address integrating AI. There's people that are concerned about them taking over their data and sending them over to a nefarious person or something. So how do you integrate that in and assure that things are secure? You've addressed the data privacy. And the other thing is, as like the NVIDIA guy talked about, perhaps an algorithmic bias toward one conclusion he mentioned. And so how do you all try to work through that? I mean, nowadays it's all fake news everywhere, so we don't even know what real news is. And here we are trying to implement a technology, and that's sort of when the myths come out. How does a leader at a campus try to do that?
Well, I think we have to be very deliberate, particularly when we start talking about using student data to identify trends, because there's a lot of sensitive data in there, whether it be their grades or their personal information. So we have to be very cautious about that. So we have to work with our system office and the IT folks there to make sure whatever we decide to do is well protected. It's like anything else. You've got to get the right people in the right places to understand how those nefarious folks could get to your data and find ways to block it. But it is definitely a consideration. I think that's why we start in a way that it's less sensitive information that we're talking about.
Yeah, and this is something that I have not done, but it's been on my mind. We've got to get some procedures in place at our colleges as to how it's used, when it's used in the classroom. Free game. Let's learn. But if we're doing something on the staff side or doing something with the student data, I think Dr. Ali, you mentioned it today that your policies will cover AI, but I think there needs to be some type of protection in there. And we've not gotten to that point yet, but it's definitely been on my mind past couple of months, several months, that we've got to get a group together and really get a handle on this as we move forward.
Jeff?
Yeah, I agree with what Todd and Brock have said as well. I think, and I go back to the day that Dr. Ali came into our professional development for all of our employees and just said, look, you can put things in there, it depends on your script, but you cannot always make sure it's accurate. So you have to validate it. And so it's kind of, trust but verify, right? And I've heard other people say earlier today that, 40% is accurate. I don't know what the accuracy is, that percentage, and I think that's the good thing about our faculty. And I think I'm biased about our faculty. I think they're very, very, very good. And so I think this is a tool that they need to learn, but also make sure that they coordinate with the activities, make sure that the data they're getting makes sense and is accurate. So, and I think we're learning every day about that.
Yeah, on the bias side, you have to be aware that could happen. I use an example. So we get these requests from our system office. There's some legislation being recommended, like 13 or 14 pages. And normally our representative kind of summarizes, well, he didn't do it this time. It's like, okay, 13 pages, Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3, typical. And I was going to spend 3 hours looking at it. So I downloaded ChatGPT and said, explain this to an 8th grader in 1 page. And it did. But I still had to go back and double check certain parts of it to make sure it was lining up with the original document.
Well, at this point, we'd like to see if you all have any questions of the presidents. They like to hear from faculty, especially ones that they don't work at their campus. So you can be more honest to them, and they can certainly be more candid with you. So, feel free to ask, because, it is a new world out there. And I think all of us are trying to figure out what our role and our niche should be.
The instructor that got an increase in her AI skills that you were talking about, did she get a raise? You don't have to answer that, just.
Yeah.
She did not because I didn't want to, but we're on salary schedules, and so.
I think with all that time they saved, you get to give more work.
I will say that our chancellor is very proactive about looking at different opportunities. And so ask that in about a year, you might get a different answer.
Yes, sir.
I'm Director of Infrastructure, Virtualization, High Performance Computing for Auburn. And as somebody who's hired a lot of IT people over the years, first I would say I am a beneficiary of a 2-year program when I decided to change careers about 20 years ago. And adjunct faculty members have the power to change people's lives, because where you are in more of an applied, more so than a theoretical position, somebody says, this is in fact what is going on out there. This is not theoretically. And if you can do this, you will be able to work in that field. So I'm thankful for that. But also as somebody who has seen a generation come up where in some cases, college was not for them, and they were incredibly talented because they've had things in their hand and games and stuff like that. So opinions on how you recruit adjunct faculty, and not that career faculty are not as, don't produce the same kind of students, but somebody that is excited about engaging with 2-year systems because of the agility. This is changing so quickly, where you can offer a certificate program or something where I am seeing 2-year schools be facilitators for national programs that exist, and you have to have a local facilitator, and you can produce certificates that are relevant in the IT world and around here, manufacturing. We see data centers coming to this area. We need people to do that, not only the AI stuff, but people to support those things, from robotics to data centers. How are you recruiting, and how do we meet each other better?
Yeah, so we, particularly the technical programs, I have a bias coming from that world. I love people who've spent time, what I call it, the real world. And for the adjuncts that have, say, a daytime job in IT, they're living with it every day, so they're aware of the rapid changes. But I would say definitely keeping those advisory boards closely linked, so when things change, we're aware of it in advance, so we can alter our curriculum to keep up with what's happening. That's one way we look at it.
I'm actually looking for an IT adjunct if you are interested. I can't find a computer science teacher. That's the biggest thing full time because of our pay matrix. And this goes across the board, whether it's a welder or ILT, or industrial electronics instructor, manufacturing instructor. Computer science seems to be one of those ones that I can't pay enough. They can make more in the industry. So that has proven to be the most difficult position to hire full time. So I've had to turn to adjuncts, and I've had a little bit more success because they can do it on their own time and do it online. So in my opinion, we are turning to adjuncts more and more. But we still have to be careful on the percentage of the program that we offer through adjuncts. But computer science is one of those things that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, Jeff. I think some of the things that an adjunct can bring to the table is not only that work experience, but the real life, taking that theory and how do you apply it but also give them that student some mentoring of the real world where maybe a traditional instructor may not have that aptitude to do because just they didn't have that experience. But I selfishly, I find myself when I'm meeting with business and industry, and Todd probably does the same thing, but I'm constantly recruiting, absolutely constantly recruiting. And I find out people that get burned out in the industry sometimes, and they want to transition into our world. And those become some of the best instructors that we can find out there, because not that they're better because of this, that, or the other, but they can really turn that student into a great employee for a future company. And so I think, some of our full-time instructors come from business and industry. A lot of our, adjuncts do as well, but we have a lot of adjuncts that are still going to get their PhD as well that haven't had that experience, and they do phenomenal work as well. So I think it's one of those things that we're going to be thinking about. What does that instructor need to have? Those competencies, behaviors, and technical abilities. I think my insight to that is looking at how they can incorporate AI into the classroom, because that's the real world. It's here. We got to live with it. So we got to teach people with it.
Yeah, the other side of that is with your existing faculty, make sure they have opportunities for professional development in going out to conferences, getting access to whatever new information is out there, and investing back in them so they can grow themselves, particularly in technical fields, right? And it's funny, I remember, goes back years ago, I was looking for an IT person for my factory, and then being in the corporate world, it required a 4-year degree. Well, everybody applied, their 4-year degree was from 15, 20 years ago, and this is back in the 90s, almost completely irrelevant to what we were doing then. And meanwhile, I had somebody with 10 certificates from the last 2 years who could run circles around them. So it has to be a bit of a change of thinking, too, about the requirements for these instructors or for whatever professional position. They've got to get the job done, not just, and it's not always the degree, it's what they really know and the relevance of that information.
Yes, ma'am.
Down in hopes that y'all can hear me. Thank y'all for your leadership across the state. Emily Jerkins Hall, economic developer, now work with Quant Hub. You all know. My question, I sit on a couple of workforce boards as well, and I think what's so tricky, right, is that the model is to listen to employers, have them inform the curriculum, build the workforce. And as I think about the competitiveness of Alabama's economy, and I think about the equity of high-paying jobs and where they go, and how we create equity in the state, but also how we make our companies and our workforce competitive. And I'll give you one quick example. Because Jeff, you mentioned AI not being in a job description, and we had a program this summer, and a company that was a small to mid-sized company was looking to solve a problem, and that intern, a high school student, came on site, built a chatbot to solve that problem for them, and they nobody else knew how to do it on the team. And so I guess my question really is, how do you balance the immediate workforce needs of employers and market right now, while also adapting to kind of the broader, larger skills that are needed so that we can compete as a state and give people opportunities?
The biggest thing is getting them into the labor participation, labor force, getting them in there, but then going to the employers and upskilling them and looking at their current workforce and saying, what do you need, 10 years, what do you need this person to do, and continuous cycle in that realm of, I don't even know what I'm trying to say now, but anyways, just in my opinion, upskilling current workforce and providing and keeping our advisory boards close to us, finding out what the trends are going to be and what they are now.
Yeah, I think we have to stay close to our industry partners, our business partners. I know we all do. We spend a lot of time on the economic development side. In fact, we were at a workforce economic development conference yesterday, improving our skills in that area. So really understanding what the need is, what they're trying to achieve, and turning that into some sort of training program, or at least explaining it well enough to students that might have that aptitude. Because, the world is changing. It's interesting. When I was coming up, I had a lot of friends that went in the military, went to the family farm, became tradespeople, skilled tradespeople. But over the last 20, 30 years, that became less popular. And these tradespeople now are becoming a premium. And I've got students who hated high school, barely made it through, C students at best, who are now six-figure employees running their own air conditioning business or an electrician. So the whole idea of what a valuable skill is, we have to see what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question that you have. I think our part of our role is to understand what is needed by meeting with our business and industry, but also I do a lot of partnership, and I know they do too, with engineering schools. Like I do a lot of work with engineering school at Auburn. And so a lot of times we're tied into DOD grants where we might be a sub-recipient or something like that, but we can stay on the cusp of some of the things that are going to be, and it really is bottomed down. It's aerospace, and it goes into defense, and then it ends up in the shop floor, and then it ends up in the car, right? So it's just kind of like this 7-year cycle. But so we get to see things up front, and then we start looking at, okay, if I need to buy a piece of equipment, I need to make sure it incorporates what's going to be coming down in 3 years and be intuitive enough as possible to make sure we buy that equipment. So the equipment that I'm buying right now is like closed loop 4.0 manufacturing for our shop floor. So we can teach people about cyber innovation, all those different things. Then we can incorporate AI into that. So we can tie that into it as well. And it's not easy. It's hit and miss, right? It's hit and miss. But I think right now, and I'll say this, but I think right now with our 24 colleges, I think we have leadership across the state now that can do that. And
I'll say one more thing on the long-term goal. I think it falls on our shoulders to work with our K-12 partners to get down into not even the low high schools, not even in the middle schools, but creating this awareness piece of what's in the community, what type of jobs are out there, what type of jobs may be coming, allowing those elementary school students to get the awareness of what is AI? What are the things out there? What does that even mean? Then allowing them in middle school to explore these different types of options and careers out there. And then we can align them, and when they start in 10th grade with us in dual enrollment, align them better with our programs because we've had touch points through elementary school and middle school and now high school, and getting them ultimately into a job that they truly are capable and can succeed in and help our employers.
Any other questions?
let me add one thing to that too. I think, right now we do STEM camps with a lot of fourth graders and sixth graders and stuff like that. And just some of the questions that we're going on, some of the discussion we're having, we need to continue those and increase them, but we need to use AI and teach those kids AI, how to resolve some of those STEM questions that we give them, little exercises. And, it varies up, but then it increases. But one of the things that we struggle with is, and it's no fault to our friends in K through 12, but 45% of the high school grads, they graduate high school, but they don't continue on to military 2-year or 4-year in Alabama. That's on average. So in some of our areas, in rural areas, it's a lot higher than that. So what we're talking about, I think you hear it from all of us, is awareness. There's great jobs out there. And, Jeff, you mentioned it too, that some kids don't know that they can do X, Y, and Z, and they can make a really good living. And if we can excite them about something, a great career in Alabama by using AI, then that's something we need to be doing. Right.
I think you use AI to make it interesting for the individuals too. We talk about individualized learning, but pique their curiosity, almost make it a game for them, make it fun to learn and to be curious and figure things out and solve problems. If we can make that connection, you're going to see a lot more people kind of step forward and participate versus sitting back thinking they're not good enough.
Let me ask, Jeff, go ahead.
That was one last comment on, I don't know the sentiment of the 2-year system of somebody who comes and takes a class versus somebody who goes all the way through a program. I know personally, I would love to laser weld, but I'm not going to go all the way through a program. I would love to know that. I think the 2-year system is well fixed when you have campuses all over the state, and have a standardized base level AI certificate or something like that, where you can all teach the same class, offer the same class, and have facilitators, and that could be a base for the best AI base for Alabama, whether it be manufacturing or other things, where we could agree on that. And you might have a lot of people flock to a course like that.
The last question I have really for all of us is, they say AI is supposed to save us jobs in our business. We're going to have some efficiencies. There's some literature that it shows that, in Alabama that there'll be displacement in a lot of our counties for automation because of that. On your campuses, are you going, hey, I'm going to save some money from this automation and artificial intelligence?
No, I used to do that for a living. Take something that took 50 people and make it so 10 people could do it. I never laid off a person. I would retrain them, make them more valuable in different ways. And the way I explained it to those folks is the more proficient we are, the more efficient we are, the more competitive we are, it brings in more work. And I think the same thing here. We'll create a better product. We'll get more students. And you handle it through attrition as people leave the organization. You maybe don't replace them, but there's enough to do out there. And maybe more counseling, more advising. And by advising, I don't mean scheduling classes, but talking about careers, talking about pathways, mentoring. There's all sorts of things we can do to add value to our students.
I think, the 45% I was talking about earlier, there's market share for everyone in every county of this state. So if I do anything, it's going to be adding more people because we're going to be adding more classes. Night classes because people are working, so we're doing night classes again and some Saturday classes. But so I think it's the opposite of what people think in education. We're going to be adding people down the road.
Doc, any last thoughts?
No, I think your administrative costs can go down. Your top level can go down. But like you said, the faculty is going to be there. And it's just going to be higher quality faculty because of what they're learning and what we're having to train them on.
Well, very good. Be glad to talk among the group, but otherwise, thank you guys.